almost ready, but I would like to welcome you for today's editor showcase and the Q&A. Yeah, really excited. I have 3 different projects lined up, and Cristina is here as a UX design lead, I would say. Maybe to get a bit of a feel for the audience who has already looked at the experience builder, like played around with it. Yes, it's maybe like 30%. Who has already worked with Gutenberg or played around with it? It's a little bit less, but still people cool. And how about Blökkli, who is familiar with Blökkli, has tried it out? Okay, it's even less. Okay, good. Are you using other editors with Drupal? Which ones? Layout paragraphs? Yeah. Mercury, is it? Good, so as we can see, it's the Drupal Editor Showcase Q&A. We will get to know the panelists. We'll have roughly 5 minutes demo for each of the editors. We'll get some UX opinions, and there will be probably enough time for your questions and answers. Maybe we can also take that time to dive into more details of the editors, if that's designed for you. So yeah, let me welcome the crowd. Maybe you could just briefly say who you are, why you're, what's your relation to the editor.
Du bist kein Entwickler, scheiße. Ja, ich glaube, so gibt es viele Support. Kundenservice ist nicht so. Einfach niemand wirklich gerne macht. Obwohl es eigentlich sehr
Blökkli editor
wie sich schlechter Kundenservice erfüllen kann. Ich zeige euch mal einen kurzen Clip. Das ist ein Abschnitt aus dem Film Meet the Parents with
I'm a senior product manager at Nuxt. I'm a product lead for the Experience Builder project, so I'm going to be talking about that.
Ich hoffe, man hört den Ton, sonst sollte man auch
Cristina Chumillas from Barcelona. I'm the Drupal CMS UX Lead. I've been working on defining stuff for the admin UI for Drupal for ages now. I've been working about design. And yeah, since until Friday I was like the engineer at Lullabot.
Thank you. I think we would start with the experience builder. So yeah, I would like to invite Lauri. Give us some insights.
Right. I actually changed my computer. It's easier to do that. Okay. Here we go. So
was wir hier sehen, ist so typisch.
So, in order to enter the edit, it opens up the editor from there. We are on a canvas where we can scroll. In here we can hover over elements and we can see what is it that we have in here. And we click anything, it opens up an editor or form where we get the content in here.
Ich bin sicher, wenn ich könnte, würde ich nicht mehr mit dieser App einfliegen.
theory, nothing should be scheduled. I'm not really sure why is it doing that right
Sie
now.
hätte ich wohl ja, eigentlich.
So everything should be working smoothly. So we can see there's a latest representation, which allows you to see what is
Auch wenn es mich nur eine
how
Minute
the
Zeit
page is constructed. Inside the library, we have all of our
nicht mehr
components in here.
mit dieser
Components have a live preview that show how they look like when they insert to the page. And
Seien wir aber ehrlich, für uns bei den Agenturen, ich weiß nicht, wie es bei euch ist, wir haben Stundensätze,
again,
sind
here, that way we can pretty quickly put together
Da
pages.
erwartet der Kunde nichts anderes als perfekt zu bekommen.
You can also navigate between pages here, so the idea of the experience bar is that you don't necessarily, I guess it's sort of a power layer on top of the UI in a way that we are taking over any of the journeys
Wenn
completely.
ich da zurückschaue,
If you're editing, you're
meine
setting in
Zeit,
here, you
als
don't
ich
have
ein
to
Lehrling
go
war,
to the admin UI to
da möge
complete
mir
these
das
tasks.
verzeihen, was jetzt kommt.
Quicker pages here is a different one. That's in here.
Ich habe
When
da
we make
einen
change,
Check,
all of
war
those
sehr
kind of
gut.
accumulate in here, so we can see that inside the screen changes panel, we see all the changes that we've made and when we already we can publish them
War
at once.
richtig
I think what is special about Experience Builder is that
ausgebaut.
it's not just about the content creation, but we can also create
Nun
great
denke
components
ich,
in
das
here.
ist 35 Jahre her. Ich mag mich nicht mehr daran
We
erinnern,
created
wie
it here, and it was enter a code editor here, which allows me to then code
aber ich denke natürlich, wir müssen irgendwie dafür sein.
and tailwind.
Wir sollen auf Augenhöhe arbeiten.
This is not the only way to define components. There's ways to do that and similar to components, and outside of that, but the point being that Experience Builder is going to have that sort of holistic journey. Okay, how do we build the nice system? How do we represent that in Drupal in order to provide that experience for the content creator?
Da müssen wir
Kind of that same way, we can also add things that are not specific to a particular page. We can set, for example, we have a footer of the site, things that are more that cascade across the whole site. So if I click headers, then allows me to make edits in that
Techniker,
header region, and
Fotokopiermaschine.
then changes are represented on
In
all
dieser
of the
Zeit
various pages.
gab es so Großraumbüros mit 100 Leuten, 50
I think that's pretty much that's a demo of what we have today. We're planning to add quite a lot of new capabilities in future, but this is really focused around in terms of creating these landing pages for content right now.
Die Leute müssen da
And this is
war sehr
already working.
ist diese
We've done some, in terms of like user experience enhancements, like the
Jeweils, wenn ich da
things
dann ins
like
Büro
undo and redo, so I just believe
Büromanager zu mir und
what
fragt
you can there if I press Command
hey,
D,
wir haben einen Maschine, schau mal, es ist sehr wichtig, dass du schnell
in
wieder
here,
nachfragen
unless it's an app that
arbeiten.
provides you a
Was
separate
denkst du?
warning,
Wie lange wird
can
es
be
gehen?
undone. So for example,
Jetzt
thinking if I want to
anschauen.
read this would be something that takes place immediately, instead of going through that.
Aber mit der Erfahrung, die ich hatte, wusste ich, okay,
Yeah, I would say that that's for you. Key pieces to know about Experience Builder.
der Kunde sagte ich,
Thank you very much.
vielleicht eine Stunde, vielleicht zwei, im besten Fall in 90 Minuten. Und damit war auch der Kunde, der Manager schon mal
We
happy, weil
invite
er
Jan
eine
to
klare
the
Ansage,
Blökkli demo.
wie lange es in etwa gehen würde, bis die Maschine wieder funktionstüchtig ist. Und er sagt mir, ja, vielen Dank und ja, bitte auch dran. Als ich dann nach 30 Minuten fertig war,
So first of all, Blökkli is two things.
sagt, hey, ich bin
So
fertig,
there's
das
editor,
wieder.
which can
War er
actually
natürlich
access on
extrem happy, sehr
of
zufrieden.
LE.
Ich war schnell
Just information, that part is not Drupal.
als
That
Antwort.
is purely basic
Letztendlich war es so
actual
eine
editor
Win-Win-Situation für
from
uns beide.
Nuxt. So this is basically quite all the features that Blökkli offers here.
In Anführungszeichen. Und er
It's just there is no really a
weil er
account
alles
involved,
organisiert
just
hat,
stored in
die
your
Maschine
browser
lief
basically.
und alle drucken.
You could say it's faked to look nice.
Was ich damit sagen möchte,
Okay,
ist,
so give you a bit of an overview of how
das
Blökkli works.
Problem zu
So
erkennen,
obviously like the classic thing like zooming, dragging,
dem Kunden mal eine Aussage zu machen.
and so on.
Ich
So here I
denke,
can
es
just
braucht so viel
drag and
Zeit,
drop the text in here if I want. And then
passiert,
there is
weil
my
wenn der Kunde
Lorem Ipsum text. I can always
nicht weiß,
also
wo
move
er
it.
ist, schauen
The
wir
text is
tatsächlich
identical
auf
and it moves. It works. So fit that image and drag it up
der
here. That works.
Custom
Pretty basic things.
Curve. So,
So I
zwar,
think a lot of you have already seen some
das
demos of
Problem
it,
ist,
so I'm going to focus a
die
bit on
Maschine läuft nicht, ist nicht
the specific things that it offers. So
sondern
let me talk a bit about how it's integrated in Drupal. So there is
schöpft er
a
ein
module
Mikrofon,
called
ist
Blökkli that basically integrates the editor, provides some GraphQL mutations and queries, so you can actually make with any paragraph setup. That's something very important to me.
Wenn ich dann aber
I
die
want to
Antwort gebe und
invent
sage, hey, ich
a
denke,
new
es
data
geht
structure,
eine
but most
Stunde,
of the things actually
dann geht seine,
almost
dann
everything.
happy, seine
So it is basically
Emotionen
compatible with any paragraphs that you can imagine.
ist
So
weit,
the nested that
entfernt
supports
da.
paragraphs library.
Und als es schlussendlich doch schneller war, als ich gesagt habe,
So let's switch to an actual Drupal installation.
20 Franken
You can see it
der
here. The way it works, I'm on a note here. So actually, yes, again, that is completely decoupled setup because it's quite important.
Am Anfang,
So
als ich
what
da
you see here
begonnen
is
habe,
actually, for
saßen meine
example,
Kurse
admin
vielleicht auch
menu
ein
from
wenig
Drupal
so
to be implemented in Nuxt. Basically, I can start editing a page
Manager,
on a note, for example, here.
aber habe mich gleich
As you can see here on the left, I can see all paragraphs that are available on this node. So what does on this node mean? So you
begann,
could have multiple paragraph builds on the node, and all of them are basically supported in
ohne
the
mit
same
Kunden
editing
zu sprechen.
state, basically. So
Gibt
compared
einmal
to
nicht als
some
Kunden
like
sagen,
builder where you
ja,
have
ich
just
weiß
one
nicht, vielleicht
area where you can edit
eine
things.
Stunde oder so, aber der hat
You
von
can
da
have
mit
as
auch.
many as you want.
Dann wird aber der Kunde noch
I
seine
guess
Emotionen
important thing is that
weil der weiß nicht, ob er
Blökkli
mit
is
anderen sitzt, so
probably not
spricht
really
er erst
something
mit
you
mir,
could consider a
wie wird
low-code
es
solution.
kosten, dann wird es gehen,
I'd say it's
dann auch
close
schlussendlich
solution, so you still have to write code and do
die
things.
Maschine wieder repariert
But
ist,
that's also how the project started.
ist der
So
Kunde nicht
initially
wirklich
it was
happy,
also
weil sie läuft jetzt zwar
sponsored
wieder,
it by the kind of Basel
aber ja, jetzt sei da was
during the
passiert,
relaunch,
und
because
dasselbe wieder, wenn die
people
Maschine
suddenly
sechsmal
create
defekt
content.
ist.
And it was very important to have
Nicht
basically
happy
some kind of
ist der
structure across the whole set. So Vertical does not allow you to change font
Sehr
sizes,
wahrscheinlich auch kein Schuld.
have markup, so you can obviously if you
Und ich denke,
want
das ist
if you
genau
want to do
die
that. It's basically very restricted in a sense.
Customer or
But then again,
Customer
since we're using
finden sollten,
going to
damit
show
sich der
this
Kunde
example here. So
wohl
that's a paragraph that's displaying a chart. And
ja, ich denke, Charles
actual
war
editing is going to be
klein,
possible. The edit
historisch,
is
noch jung war,
actually load the form of the paragraph
schon
in
eine
iframe.
Zeit her.
That's basically
Ich
what
habe
you
noch
can
ein paar
actually do. So
Nummern,
Blökkli does not
Zahlen,
really
die
run any
zeigen,
forms
wie
on
wichtig
Drupal.
der
And
Kundenservice
this
ist.
is basically just a table field where you can enter some data for the chart. Then actually the Blökkli part is
Ist
here.
es so, dass es
So
eine
you
Studie
can change how the chart looks like. So obviously,
zeigt,
specific
dass
data set doesn't work for some
88%
things,
der
but in
Kunden
this case, works for this bar chart.
Service
So Blökkli offers basically all these options here. You
support
can change like, the
bekommt,
color, the appearance bit, how the data is processed, so on, how the
extrem
instructions are, etc.
Das zeigt auch
It's basically what Blökkli does.
eine, von einem
It's
Retail-Banking.
both that actually a paragraph is a
Da
paragraph
haben wir
behavior,
12%,
which means that you can actually edit this page.
oder 12%
And there's basically all the same options
haben die
available.
Firma verlassen,
Um,
weil die Preise zu teuer waren. Aber
Yeah,
63%
that's a fancy one I have to show.
verlassen
You
Service
actually
provider,
change how the rotation of the chart is, and because it's viewed, it's reactive, you get an instant preview of everything. And you can say it's like everything that is editable is content and is editable. It happens through content form. And it's probably also where the user expects to see something as a preview.
das
Everything
Innovation
is visual,
So,
behavior, stuff
so
like that,
von
you can
einem,
edit directly.
Electronics
I guess that's
Manufacturers,
a good overview.
der zeigt, dass
Yes.
Can we keep it for later? We have time for
neue
questions.
Produkte mit
I've
dem
just a
Service
few questions,
37%
like buttons
schneller
are
akzeptiert werden als allenfalls auch besser.
yeah, because if I have to
Size.
compare now, I'll speak later.
Service
Sure, yes. Very quickly, so we have a command bar
auch
where you
hier
can
wichtig
also
bei
access
neuen
the command K. You can
Projekten.
add text, and it adds the text.
Ja,
the changes. So
Größe, der wichtigste Faktor ist eigentlich Loyalität.
Add something to the mutations.
Hier, das ist eine Anzahl von einem Studierenden der Universität Lokal.
Here,
Zeit ist 20%.
you can drag and drop things. The test environment is not always
Bereit sind,
available.
wer zu
The
bezahlen
structure here.
für eine User
Prefer to edit, you can
wenn
change that.
der Support existiert.
There's clipboards, so you paste YouTube links, mail
Das
links,
ist
videos, images, PDFs, whatever. And
Loyal,
then you can just paste it there and then drag from one thing and create a paragraph. So
das ist
validations,
natürlich
validation
Frage.
does just help.
wie können wir das machen, dass die Kunden loyal werden? Und das ist ja, es ist großartig.
We'll switch over
Damit
to
ein
the
großartiger
Gutenberg
Support
demo.
kommt auch gleich noch drauf. Großartiger Support ist wichtiger als der Adress. Kann ein Projekt neuer sein als vielleicht bei einem anderen Kunden. Ihr wisst das mit einem bestehenden Kunden, der zufrieden ist mit uns, haben wir viel mehr Geld als mit einem neuen, weil uns eigentlich die Frage weiß,
So, yeah, just to put a bit more context, that is what is Wordpress Gutenberg looking like. So,
da gibt es eigentlich eine goldene Regel
and we see that it's true.
und auf Englisch heißt es Make Life Easier for Customers und mach es deiner Kunden so einfach wie möglich.
We have
Wenn Kunden Probleme haben, wollen sie nicht Hindernisse in den Weg gestellt haben bekommen, wie irgendeinen unerfahrenen Servicetechniker, der nicht ziehen kann. Sie wollen Lösungen. Sie möchten nicht die Angst haben, ob irgendetwas jetzt repariert wird. Sie möchten einfach eine schnelle, möglichst einfache Lösung. Das ist sehr wichtig. Daher, wenn ihr heute gleich raus seid, dann nehmt eines mit, die goldene Regel, macht es deinen Kunden so möglich. Auf keinen
another approach, which is the busy loves distribution.
Die Frage ist halt, wie schaffen wir das, dass wir das möglichst viel von diesem Kunden rausholen, dass wir unsere Team aufstellen können. Und dafür habe ich fünf strategiert. Die erste ist, wir müssen unseren Kunden verstehen. Wir müssen verstehen, was ist sein Problem. Sein Problem ist manchmal, wenn es nicht einloggen kann sich nicht einloggen, auch wenn 2 Zentimeter neben steht, was vergessen. Aber er hat ein Problem. Wir müssen ihn ernst nehmen und sagen, hey, versuch mal schnell ein Passwort vergessen zu haben, dann wird es klar. Und das vielleicht in einem Ton, dass es ernst ist und er sich nicht irgendwie fühlt wie ein 3-jähriges Kind, dem nicht sagen muss, auch wenn du dich so fühlst, kannst du lachen, wenn du das Telefon ablegst. Wichtig, vor allem auch ist praktische Kommunikation. Sprecht mit eurem Kunden, auch wenn ihr mal nicht wisst, wie lange es noch dauert. Mal wartet man, ich weiß nicht, wie lange es gut ist, das Problem zu lösen. Schau uns das an, ich melde mich in einer halben Stunde. Kunde weiß, alles richtig, alles gut. Ich bekomme noch einmal ein Update in 30 Minuten. Nicht einfach.
Because Gutenberg is the main difference that we don't have empty nested entities like paragraphs and rows. So I can show.
Und dann überall Zugänglichkeit und Geschwindigkeit. Geschwindigkeit ist klar. Das Problem sollte grundsätzlich möglichst rasch gelöst werden. Jetzt ist das aber nicht immer einfach. Kunde ruft an, ich habe mein Passwort fest, aber eigentlich ist gar keine Zeit, weil irgendeine Webseite nicht läuft, der Server down ist, dann nicht verfügbar. Import Drive, Import Software, ich melde mich eine Stunde bei dir. Das Problem ist nicht direkt gelöst werden. Wichtig, sag nicht, was du willst und was du willst.
then we need to import it with the web parser. The web parser will just import this DOM, and we will just output everything as a big chunk of HTML. It will be very good for presentation. And given that, I think it's about several features. I guess it simplifies several features, like it's collaborative editing. It's a Gutenberg format, and this is something that could also be achieved but with a bit more changes. Another feature that we've been working on is the AI import feature, so we can just pick any kind of documents like PDF, like a Word, or even an HTML page. It gives me the possibility to do some migration, but in a very different way. So not directly on the backend, but straight from the front end, or even from another data source. So if we do this way, I will just like the document.
Drücken Sie 2 cm links davon, Passwort vergessen, das merkt der Kunde.
And then what it does under the hood is that we have several processors that are bound to pattern recognition. So the pattern recognition part is where AI is involved, because this is something that is very difficult. So you need to extract some very essential Word documents.
Müssen wir an irgendetwas wirklich drin arbeiten,
being able to just extract based on the
Passwort vergessen,
adjusted context is something that is enough to do, but what we can do is just to provide this context from plugins that will be responsible to map the values to the Gutenberg attributes. So, yeah. And I think that's
es ist aber auch wichtig, dass man eigentlich Tools ein wenig an die Hand bekommt,
wow, thank you so much
Stück davon
for
aufgeschrieben.
these exciting insights. It's a bit limited time, obviously,
Ein AI
into the depth of everything.
Schnelle
But
Antworten.
I would like to
Der AI kann man natürlich auch sagen, dass sie dann nicht lang schreibt, sondern
to our UX lead, what are your thoughts? Maybe your first questions?
so der Kunde
Well, that's complicated because obviously everyone has chosen a completely different set of features and it's not comparing one-to-one. So if I try to extract myself to the features themselves, because I know that everybody in the room is a developer, is an engineer, like probably you're more focused on the feature, but if I do a step back and I try to think more as a user, then it's trying to use interfaces, it's more, it's clear that all of you have gone through this thinking on how to organize a different set of tools on the interface in a way that makes sense. And I see a lot of patterns that are exactly the same, and that's good. So it means that there are some patterns that are quite understandable. I think like an experience builder on one side it's using like and I think yours also has a lot of these parts, which is you have like you're reviewing what you're seeing and you have like the drag and drop on the left and you can just drag and drop the stuff and it's like easy to have that. And like the separation of concerns makes a lot of sense, but on some of them are like kind of like for example, you were showing like the structure of the component on the right, and then you can drag and drop the comments from the left. So if you have like the first coming from the right, and at the same time from the right you have the structure coming from there. They are not exactly in the same place, and if you want to put yourself on the mental model of the user that is going to use that, sometimes you want to have the things that are related to each other in the same place. But it's not easy at all, because you can see like they have like this left panel where you're switching between the things that you're putting there on the pages. So it's like, it's complicated to organize the whole thing. And I think it's great to see that everyone has this top bar with a lot of like the same tools, so kind of ended up on the same pattern, like the save, edit button, the title in the middle or left, go back. So I don't want to say anything wrong from anyone because I think they are all amazing tools. So I guess the con thing is
Strategien
you've come up
verfolgen,
with patterns
und
that
werden
are
wir
quite similar,
umgehen
and I
mit
would
hoher
say that's a
Loyalität.
good strategy.
Cool, thanks.
Da ist aber auch wichtig,
questions
dass
from the
wir
audience that you would like to see more?
den Support eigentlich messen können. Es ist nicht immer ganz
Also
einfach,
for
wir haben da
Blökkli,
mal 3, 4
curious how you can implement a layout
mitgenommen.
because paragraph
Also es ist der
if you
First
start
Response
and
Time.
then like a layout with a law,
Wie lange muss ein Kunde warten, bis er eine Antwort
you
bekommt?
supposed to do that in
Wir bekommen lange keine Antwort, frustriert, wird verheert.
Basically up to you how you want to do
Daher,
that. So,
je schneller er
since
eine
Blökkli
Antwort
really doesn't
bekommt,
care about
desto
how you structure your
desto
paragraphs
die
or whatever.
Antwort diese
So,
Zeit.
if you want to basically replicate the classic layout with 3
Da
columns,
gibt es die
then you would
Customer
actually have to create
Satisfaction
a
Score.
paragraph with 3 fields. So
Da
left, middle, right.
schauen man sich
So that's how it
das
works. So
direkte Feedback
obviously you can just have one field, and then you have something more like a grid, where then via an option to say, hey, I have 3 columns, it can obviously going to be that.
dass man mich aushört, hey, was
So I
soll
looked
das?
at layout paragraphs actually, and the beginning, and I still think that it could be a valuable
Da gibt es
addition
die
to
Retention
Blökkli,
Rate,
because specifically this issue of
stärkt
having to have like a
grundsätzlich
paragraph
die
with 3 fields,
Loyalität.
because a lot of different paragraph types. So actually using the layout
Also sollten
again
wir messen,
to implement some of
haben
these
wir hier
regions would
vielleicht
be
das Glück,
a
dass
nice addition.
Kunden ja nicht gleich abspringen und zu einer anderen Agentur gehen, wenn sie nicht oder das erste Mal nicht happy sind.
Not sure if it was
Aber
clear.
viele Kunden,
Would you like to add how layers are
weil sie mit dem
multi-column layers are in annotators?
So in Experience Builder, you can
gibt es noch die Customer
here just components, and components can have
Derzeit,
properties, and so those are the ones that display in the right sidebar. And then you can specify slots, and slots are where you can place other components inside them. So you can build all sorts of nested trees that you want to create using those slots.
Wie viel muss er investieren?
It's not relying layout API. So layout API is something where we allow layout API to expose the existing layouts in there. And essentially like how we would then consider it is just that the layout, let's say you have a 3-column layout that comes in the layout API, it has 3 slots as we consider it. So then you can have experience builder component, it could either have slots in it or not. And then you can have those more complex trees even inside the layout plugin defined layouts.
Wirklich
I think one feature that was quite impressive is the AI assist that
ist aber etwas sehr
basically
wichtig.
converts a document to
Das ist
put on the roadmap for the other
ein
editors.
Team, das weiß,
Plans for it.
wann
Of course, I have plans for everything, but it's quite challenging. I think it's easier for something like Gutenberg to do that because data structure is already like flat with this markup and so on. So in terms of how we would do it with Blökkli, just with paragraph, obviously you'd have to have some mapping from what to what, etc. It's quite challenging.
ich
But
denke, in den meisten
always
Fällen
we
ist es so,
think about that because
dass
it's quite an amazing feature.
in einem Projekt,
Can you imagine
das
implementing that
Projekt
sometime?
abgeschlossen ist, sind wir in Betrieb.
We've done some
erste
experimentation on
Anlaufstelle.
that. So for us, it's with Experience Builder, we model where the data structure is actually something that is quite easy to model with AI because we have it's a JSON-based structure where we can have a schema, so we can describe it to AI. So we've already done both prompt-based content
Weil wenn
generation
wir da untrainierte Leute haben, Leute mit
document-based
wenig Erfahrung,
generation as
eigentlich
well.
ja nicht
It
böse,
is quite interesting because like documents could have any kind of arbitrary
Was
content in them, so
hinterlässt
there's the interesting challenges that how
die
you,
Erfahrung,
what actually makes sense in terms of like how you actually want to map those components, but yeah, getting back to
ist natürlich
be right is quite challenging.
ja, ich muss natürlich jemanden
Turns out
fragen,
from
und weiß es
experimentation
auch
that we've
nicht.
been doing, in terms of,
Hängt
so
das
we are actually,
Telefon
right now,
dran,
we are
ohne zu
probably more
sagen, wie
focused
lange es
around,
dauert.
we generate, either a small part of the page because then the user needs to specify the intent that they have around it. So maybe the user would give a prompt around this is the type of section that I want to create specific intent for this section. And then it's much easier to sort of interrupt, okay, like,
Für
but
einen
what is it that we actually
für
do
einen
in
Anfänger
this scenario?
Weil die Kunden merken das, wenn jemand
If there are
sicher ist.
other questions.
Sie merken, wenn jemand überfordert ist. Sie denken sich, hey, jetzt zahle ich da 200 Franken die Stunde Sie setzt mir einen Lehrling oder einen Anfänger vor die Nase, der mir nicht hilft.
Can you specify what do you mean by predefined templates? Do you mean by like
Das ist
just something that you can kind of copy paste as a starting point, or do you mean like a fixed? Yeah.
Geht über den Support.
Yep.
Das ist kein Ort für Trial and Error. Also, da muss klappen. Das muss funktionieren. Es ist auch so, dass ja erfahrene Support-Leute oder
In Experience Builder, we have the concept of the sections, which is essentially like a pre-built one section.
wir können das Problem auch sehr
It's a
schnell
fully baked page, yeah. But we have been thinking about the option of providing pages as well, because we could do it essentially as a category of sections. Now, instead of having one section in it, it's got something that has maybe 3 sections in it. Right now, we're independent on us having like a multi-select option available, because right now in Experience Builder, you can only select one component at a time. Once we have an option to select multiple components, then we believe that we can add something where we can then select, okay, I will take these 3 sections and save this as a template for someone to use as a page. So it is on the roadmap. But
Anfänger, weniger erfahrene, so Juniors,
Yes, it's available, but it's very cheap. So it's basically just to select a node where you want to import paragraphs from.
ihre Rolle
It works, and it's actually used heavily. So in one of the big projects, you just create unpublished nodes with a big structure and
lernen
store
dort
it.
das Handwerk. Sie lernen dort
The key for the Gutenberg approach is to use
Umgebung. Nicht jeder Kunde ist gleich.
templates
Das kann
on
man
the
lernen.
outside
Wenn
and
Sie dann
also
so
on
weit sind,
the inner blocks. So
dann
basically
können
what
Sie
you
auch
can do
nur
is just to have a template log throughout for
lasst ein Kunde, lasst ein Kunde nicht mit einem Junior-Supporter allein.
structure. And then in the template you can say which available blocks
Weil das ist,
blocks
ich habe am Anfang die Frage gestellt,
which brings some
ich habe behauptet,
so
dass
if you
über
have,
Schlechtes wird
let's say,
gesprochen als über
news,
Gutes. Das ist wirklich so,
then you
wenn
can say,
der
okay,
Kunde nicht
the-
happy
this
ist,
side I need this view of
wird er das seinem
perhaps the
Kollegen
people we
erzählen,
have,
er wird
some
es seinem
needs,
Chef
on
erzählen
top.
und
And
irgendwann kommt es
for
zurück zu
events,
uns.
then you should have a date set. And
Sie verlassen es
so
vielleicht
and
machen,
which
das
brings
nächste
the
Drupal Update
flexibility
einer
also
anderen
to
Firma,
limit what the editors
weil
can do in the
sie
system.
nicht happy mit dem.
And yeah, I think also what we can
Und
what
wir
we
haben
can
ja
use
auch,
is the page template module. Which
die Entwickler mögen
is
es
a
mir
contribute
verzeihen.
module, that will,
Ich glaube,
cover
der
the
Support
sense of the Drupal
ist
views.
wichtiger als
Because
der
Drupal views can be combined with
Wenn der Code nicht
Gutenberg is just
gut
a
ist,
little feed. So if
aber
you
der
you
Support
bind this
1a
with a template, it's
kann das
easy to say
korrigieren.
that, oh, okay, I don't want to have this in the Gutenberg editor, but rather have
Ja,
a
wir
Drupal
kommen
feed,
langsam
because it's more convenient to have a feed
zu einem
that's
Ende. Ich habe noch die
also
Key Facts zusammen, die wichtigsten Sachen. Wie gesagt, Support ist nicht einfach etwas, was wir mitnehmen.
the balancing of what you can actually configure on the element versus what goes, for example, in a frame or in the form that's rendered by Drupal. And I saw in Gutenberg, for
Guter
example,
Support
you showed you had some
verbindet
options
uns den
directly on
Kunden,
the element,
loyale Kunden.
and some of the options seem to be on the right
Mit
side.
loyalen
And I think
Kunden können wir viel Geld
that's how you do it with Experience Builder, if you can also have options on the elements or put them through the Drupal form.
Wissenheit ist ein,
With like a strategy of how to balance that.
ist ein Gegner.
Just adding one thing.
Und wenn ich weiß, was passiert als nächstes, ist er frustriert.
Actually, we found out that
Erwartet klare Ansagen.
because it allows the possibility to edit out
Schnelle
the footprint from our web form elements, and it has a lot of options which
Ja, hier wieder.
still have to replicate.
Schlechtes
So we have
Support
two
breitet
approaches
sich schnell.
of forms basically.
Hat ganz kurz vielleicht
either, have reactive
irgendwo an der
forms
Fassung
and
bei
then
uns
reader
gab es
form
eine
on the front end.
Dönerbude.
For things that
Die
do
haben
not
alle
work,
irgendwelche
if we can
Druckviren
go
aufgenommen.
web
16
form,
Leute
we
waren
just
dran.
choose the
Dönerbude
Gutenberg
ist
form
geschlossen.
which
Es ist nicht nur ein Problem für diese Dönerbude, sondern dieselbe Döner oder eine andere Dönerbude am selben Ort. Die kommt ebenfalls schlechte Bewertungen, weil man weiß es gar nicht so, wo ich die jetzt bewerte.
Interesting that you came to the same conclusion as we. We also use the web form embedded in iframe approach in some projects. Though we have actually also tried or did actually implement this web form
Es
stuff.
ist kein Platz für Try and Error.
I think your question is a bit about how the options from, like if you select a local paragraph, and what goes into the Drupal form to edit. So with Blökkli, it's quite simple. So the moment it touches something that is data content, it has to be handled by Drupal. You can double click on a title in Blökkli and then edit a simple plain text or rich text that it opens just CK editor in an iframe, again ready with Drupal. And things like sliders, checkboxes, color, that's basically handled by Blökkli.
We've taken the approach where we try to render as much of it on the sidebar and not try to get things into preview right now. Largely because of there's a little bit of a trade-off between the developer experience and accuracy of the preview and then like the actual internal experience where we believe that probably a better editor experience would be to provide those things in the preview that you're doing in Blökkli. However, what you're planning to do in future is probably for some text is an improvement from James' perspective is to allow editing text inside preview. You don't have that right now. Planning for that in future. But probably even in future, the focus on for us is going to be largely to have those settings in the right sidebar, having updates preview in the time from there.
Sorry für euch beide mit meinem Standarddeutsch.
The creators are great because you are actually adding what you're saying. The question is how you will actually add what you're not saying, like metadata or stuff like that. What is going to the teaser if that's going to be shown on a list, for example? How do you edit all things? Especially on the mental model of a user that usually don't understand a lot of what the Drupal entity is.
So Experience Builder, what we do is we have pages, which are essentially unstructured pages where you wouldn't generally be generating teasers. And so the metadata that we have is more SEO related, so we have specific fields in the right sidebar for page title, meta description, and SEO image. But then when it comes to structured content, it's the editing experience that we have to change that over to actually convey to the user, okay, you're now editing something where this form has a meaning on its own, and it represents something. Like, let's say it represents a product, or it represents a press release, and then it must contain information that makes sense in the context of the press release or product. Or let's say maybe you have a SKU in the product. You might not display the SKU anywhere in the page, maybe it is something that you use for internal tracking or for API calls to be able to retrieve what that product is. So that's why we take a approach where we, in the structured content scenario, we make the form take a little bit more place in that, and then try to make that make sense on its own. We do go to preview, similarly to, I guess, to Gutenberg, where there was a preview on the left side, so that you can see if it changes something. But yeah, you can in that case do the editing inside the preview.
Yeah, it's and a shortcut we took. So if you want to edit, let's say the meta tags, you just click in the header on the name of the page, and then again an iframe opens, and you just end up on node form. So what we do is we hide, hides the actual paragraphs, the node form. People don't get confused, but you're basically then able to edit all the metadata and so on. Basically a trade-off between, okay, what do I edit directly in Blökkli? I think the rule of thumb is it something visual? Is it something you actually see immediately? With meta tags or menu link and so on. It's like it's in an iframe basically.
So yeah, we have this conditional block sidebar, and close to that we can just switch to the this tab, which will show the node title, the moderation status, and then for SEO we can put all the metadata from there, the menu settings. So yeah, SEO is a specific thing that is a shortcut that is part of this solution, but yeah, all the metadata when you navigate that body is showing up there. Which, for this kind of case, is a bit challenging with it, but I think it's better it shows up with the default methods module, I think. Yeah, for long it can be a bit challenging. Taxonomy also can be a bit on that. So basically, just what is not visual content, we just put everything inside of. But you know, the Gutenberg editor putting it in seconds in this area, but we find it easier just to let edit things straight in the sidebar and just have a smaller bullet time. Well, thanks. Maybe following up on in that direction, when you think about pushing it to different channels, or Drupal, there's also the view modes, the forms of representations. I'd like to see in your sales builder, you also think about just signing individual components and not pages. So what's your take in the editor's part? Will there always be design pages? And will there be only one representation, or how do you think about that kind of abstraction between the data and different view modes?
Very quickly, so we did just that. So for one of our clients, they can actually create newsletters, and it's quite simple. So the view component that's responsible for the paragraph basically just outputs MDML, like kind of a meta level, so it doesn't create the markup from MGML, but actually the MGML markup itself. And then with that, you can basically see the compiled newsletter. So that's, I guess, some kind of different channel. I mean, it's really, you can do basically, I think with all editors, you can achieve that in a sense, I guess.
So from the experience builder perspective, we have the concept of pages, which I just showed is the unstructured content, and like representing something like that in the, like through an API. It's like, if you want a mobile app to read a landing page, like what are you going to make of that? So in that case, there isn't necessarily a lot of similar to that, the mobile app use case, there's not a lot of use for the view modes, because it's like, what can you make out of unstructured block that someone created? But then with the structured content piece, like when we come to nodes, it's critical that you can build multiple view modes, because you might have, you would build cards very commonly to allow navigating to the actual content page, and that's one of the reasons why it is more centered around the structure of the content. So showing form instead of the preview is because of that fact that you would have multiple view modes. So page representation is just a preview to help suggest sort of what is going to be in there, because the page is usually the most important one for them. But then we would still have essentially the other view modes being generated out of the same content that is created using the form. So let's say it's the product. We would then take the product title, image, and maybe product description, and take a card for that. We're still kind of debating amongst ourselves, like, should we allow content people to preview in other view modes as well? Like, should you be able to change from the page preview to preview in a teaser or card? We haven't decided, but it is something we are considering. So it is still a very relevant concept in there. There's definitely a use case for that.
So I've seen that you allow to edit regions that are outside a content piece of content. I saw that you can actually, with Gutenberg, you can actually see how it looks like, but you're actually editing only the piece of content. I'm not sure what you can do with your editor. Can you actually edit the header, or do you have?
Yes. So, in a sense, everything you edit like really dynamically is paragraphs. So that requires a paragraphs field on a node. But you can actually edit the node title, description, or lead text. It's really simple. Basically, just annotate in the markup where what field is. You can double click, and then you can edit plain text and CK editor stuff. You can also replace the header image, stuff like that. That's basically very simple, but covers most of the use cases. The navigation. Okay. Outside of yes, actually, I mean, yes, you can. I mean, as long as you have an entity with a paragraphs field, you can do that. So, I mean, we did that, for example, now several times for footers. So previously we were just creating menus for that, like social links and meta navigations for that. But we switched to paragraphs. It's just a config page now, config pages module that just finds paragraphs fields, and then basically you can do that. That's true. I guess that's a good difference. So you can always only edit one entity at a time. So you basically decide, okay, I edit the header now, or the node, or the footer, and the editor actually grays out everything that you cannot edit if you want to do that. So for the user, it's clear, okay, hey, I obviously can't edit that.
We're almost out of time. I thought I would maybe ask Cristina if you had a wish list for, like if you can pick the best items that are already like what would be your takeaways if you made a wish for this should be in Drupal?
I guess, yeah, so that's like going a little bit like far from that is the fact that the user, when it actually enters the Drupal, they don't have a lot of the context that we all have, the entity, the whatever, the paragraph of the thing. And I think something really good that Experience Builder is you've shown is that you can jump from one page to another. And that's actually something good because you're actually entering a mental space completely different. But at the same time, I think we will need to be very sure that the user understands that now you're on a on a page, then you're on another page, and how do you understand that? And I guess the wish list would be how to navigate through the admin interface, the admin tasks that the user can do between all the content that they have, and then actually go and jump between the different pieces in a way that makes sense for someone that is not a Drupal user.
Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to all the panelists for showing your stuff, and thank you for your questions and feedbacks.